G'day folks, I've just had my coffee and it's kicked in now, so I'm going to start babbling on because I've got so much to say, guys. What a day it was Saturday. I ended up getting the call earlier on in the week and finding out that there was a private practice on Saturday. I couldn't resist it. And I took the opportunity to go down and give it a good shakedown, guys. We must have done 30 plus laps down there in 3 separate stints, and oh my goodness, how good is it? Oh, it's really blown me out of the water, guys. It's incredible. I'll tell you what, guys, the biggest win to date on this engine freshen is how it's got so much go out of boost, before boost, down in the revs. It feels like a really strong NA motor. I've been lacking that for I've never had it, to be honest. Even when I had this 355 in previously, it never had the torque and the punch it's got now. And I contributed, guys, to the 6AL2 programmable ignition box. What that's gone and done, it's set up a beautiful timing curve before boost ramps in. Whereas before, I had the 6AL, just the plain old ignition box, and I had 6 degrees of advancement into the engine. That was it. So we ran basically on start up to idle was 14 degrees, and then we went out to a total of 20 degrees. And what happens is it just won't give you any torque, any throttle response. You lose a lot of power out of boost than otherwise should be if you had sort of like an NA engine in it with the correct timing that you need. Well, now with the programmable, I've got it dialed in at on startup. It comes in around sort of, I think it's around 8 or 10 degrees. Then when it hits 650 revs over, it'll shoot straight up to 20 degrees and idle around that 950 department. Then as soon as I think it's around 11 or 1200 revs, it'll start ramping up to 30 degrees by 3000 revs. And what that enables, guys, is for this motor to have a lot of throttle response, a lot of torque down low. And that encourages the turbo a lot quicker, the spool time. It makes for coming out of the corners incredible. Whereas before, the NA guys would come in, hot on my tail, and then soon as, especially at the hairpin, would come around and they'd just take off and get a jump on me out of the hairpin. I'd have to sort of, you know, build a bit of boost up, and once I got going, they were 5-6 car lengths and more away from me, so it was catch-up time. And now, well, I don't think they're going to have much of a hope now, because it really gets up and boogies. I can short shift so much quicker, which is easier on the transmission, and when the boost ramps on, it just takes off. It's unbelievable, it really is, and that's what I've been looking for. Especially for circuit racing, guys. I need an engine that can pull from basically idle through to red line. And I think I've achieved it. It's just unbelievable. It really is. Aside from the oiling mods and all the other little things I've done in this engine, it's just blown me out of the water how it's all just come together, and I've pretty much nailed it as a complete package now. So it's amazing, it really is. The grip level down there, guys, I've never had so much grip in my life down there, because that was the first time since buying those new tyres that we had a warm track. And the grip was phenomenal. I mean, I cornered as hard as I've ever cornered. I nearly fell out of my seat, and the seat, guys, is starting to fall apart. The top half of it, you'll see it in that vid, is moving around an inch, and it's just all worn in the Oh, it's a horrible seat, guys. It really is. I can't sort of get a good... It won't hold me well enough now. I'm finding I'm having to hang on with one hand. If you notice, on the gear stick or on the shifter lever, sometimes I put my left hand down on the side there just to get some stability. So we're going to swap a seat out and put a decent one in that's a nice wraparound in the upper half of the body. So, oh God, geez, the grip, it's unreal too. And it corners so good. Really corners well. The brake ducts, well, I had no brake fade. And on the third stint that I did around 15 laps down there, I was braking a lot deeper, around the 150, and it was just, they were faultless. So, and I've still got work to do on those guys. I've still got to make a plate up for the rotor so I can duct the airflow in between the rotors and sort of push the air out through the vanes. So I've only really got it directed onto the rotor. So the improvement just from doing that it's mind-boggling stuff. It really is. The more camber I've put in it, guys, the way it turns in now, it's like it's on rails. It really is. This is incredible stuff for me. I mean, everything I do to the car just seems to improve it out of sight. It's quite, that's what keeps me going on this car. Everything I seem to do to it, guys, seems to pay off dividends big time. Well, the big news is for me, I'm moving the turbo. I'm going to move it sooner rather than later. I've got some time off work and I've decided it's not going to cost me, I think I've got pretty much 99% of all material to do it, and I'm going to relocate the turbo. I'm putting it in the passenger side, guys. So after a lot thinking about it, and because it is heavier on the right hand side, so we're going to try and get it over onto the left hand side, and I'll build a box for it and we'll direct airflow into it. We're going to do a very in-depth talk about it, because when I mounted this turbo out the back, guys, I never did any videos on it, and this is going to be fantastic. So for you guys that are into turbos or want to know a bit about turbos, this next half a dozen videos or the next month is going to be worth watching, guys, because you're going to watch how I fabricate, and it won't be showroom, but it's not going to be rough at the same time, but how to fabricate and do a proper remote rear mount setup. I'm going to improve on my drain box. I've got some great ideas in my head how to do all that, and we're going to really shorten up the pipes, especially the charge pipe, take all the bends out of it, and it's just going to be incredible. There's nothing wrong with the rear mount, it's unbelievable, but I'm doing this as more of a weight saver, more for servicing and a performance gain as well. So it'll be bloody brilliant. The next video I do, guys, will be on the engine. All the modifications I did to the engine I'll talk about too. So it's bloody unbelievable. It really is. It's a beautiful little engine. It starts so easy. It idles beautifully. It's got go on its own. I only touched 7 pound 3 or 4 times down there, and it's quite aggressive. So we're really still in the testing phase, but wow, it's unbelievable, guys. I am going to mount an oil cooler on it now. That's probably the next big ticket item as far as costs go. I am thinking about, well, Rob said in the front, I'm thinking about it, but if something else comes to mind in the meantime, before I order the hose, I'll actually get the cooler, the size I want, and then I'm going to have a little fiddle around and just see where I could mount it, other than the front, and if I'm forced back up the front, well, so be it. Mind you, if I do that, it's going to shorten up the hose dramatically, so there is a good chance it will be up the front. But definitely need one, guys. I have noticed now with that grout, I know the turbo heats that oil up, something shocking. You're running, and the thing is, I'm running a lot of oil through the turbo because it isn't oil, so they say, oil cooled, and it does heat the oil up fairly well. But I do have a small cooler on the return line from the turbo. I'm actually thinking of getting a bigger, or getting another nice big transmission cooler to run and try and sort of take some of the temps out of it too, because I know that has always been a factor, that. But an oil cooler up the front off the engine will be the bee's knees. The coolant of it, it was hovering around 160, so huge difference there. We had a really cool water temp, but we were losing around sort of 10 psi of oil pressure, and you could feel it. It was getting quite warm. So that's an easy fix, guys. It's a great bloody thing. I'm absolutely still on, oh well, like I said, cloud 9. It's bloody fantastic. All right, guys. Well, we're going to have a flurry of vids come up in the next few weeks and month or so. I think it's February 20th. I've got to get it done. That's the first round of the club day for next year, and I'll have that turbo in position. Hopefully I can get some testing done before that, and we'll go from there, guys. Fantastic. Stay tuned. Catch you later.